Hi, guys. Welcome back. The $64,000 question is, why do good people go bad?
Bad karma to be kind to bad people. It is the wrong thing to do. I've heard people say, why is the world mean to me when I'm nice to everyone? It's because you're opening the door of kindness to people who mean you harm.
Wow.
By treating them so well, you're getting in the way of justice and you're getting in the way of them learning consequences for their actions. Give people boundaries, and when they violate those boundaries, give them consequences. Not only will this protect yourself, but it will help them learn how to be better, if they're capable of that.
I like that. He said some good stuff. I'm not a big fan of the green couch.
You sit back and think about it. Sometimes people are literally looking for a reason to be mad and are taking whatever anger they have going on right on you for absolutely nothing. And originally you'd be like, dang, what's their problem with me? No, it's not really the problem with you. It's the problem within themselves. A lot of times people just project whatever feeling they are in the inside onto other people. That's why you catch people smiling or being super bubbly, because they're happy within themselves, versus someone who is not so happy with themselves. They constantly put out negativity and wait for somebody to take the bait so they can help make them just as upset as they are. Energy is transferable. You have to remember that. So anytime you see somebody trying to transfer their negative energy onto you, you look right at them and you say, not today. I'm not finna let you pull me out of character. I'm not finna let you jumpstart and ruin my day. I'm not finna let you get my day off course, because I am happy and I'm having a great day. Don't be mad at me because you're not having a great day and you having a bad day and want somebody to take it out on.
That was a good video there. I like what she had to say. Total positivity. Love it. Very well said.
And if you don't know the difference between a good person and a bad person, here it is. Good people will do what's right. Bad people will do what they think they can get away with.
That's very true. I like what she said there. If you agree with that, let me know down below. I really like what this guy said earlier, and I think you will too.
The bad guys aren't always who you think they are. On a team, in an organization, even in a relationship, the problem people aren't always the evil people. Sometimes good people cause the worst problems. We know evil people lie, cheat, manipulate, and take advantage. But there are good people who see these bad things and keep quiet. There are good people who should step up and lead, but don't. There are good people who should push back, but instead they join in. They don't want to cause waves, so they settle for a version of peace that's actually dysfunction. Good people can be the reason a team stays stagnant because they're afraid of conflict. They think that not speaking up is keeping things calm, but silence can be as loud as a lie. Good people with good intentions can sometimes hold back the growth that only comes from facing hard truths. It's good intention with a negative impact. The reality is that it's not always the bad people you have to watch out for. Sometimes it's the good people who allow problems to linger because they won't confront the uncomfortable. Now look, if we're going to be people of integrity, we can't only expect other people to stand up and do good. We can't let fear of conflict or consequences stop us from doing what's right. My position has always been this. Thinking you're a good person isn't the same as doing good things. It's not your thoughts that count. It's your actions.
Amen. You know, that's the one thing that gets me about this Luigi Mangione thing. Never in a million years, if I would have gone up to you before this situation and said, "Hey, can you validate a murder for this situation? You know, one guy's worth 10 million a year and another guy looks like he's poor." You would say, "No, that's not a good reason to kill." Well, what if it had to deal with insurance and denials of claims? No, there's still a better way than murder. But then all of a sudden you see a nice looking guy with a nice smile, and all of a sudden everybody wants to be friends with Luigi Mangione.
I don't know if this is for everybody or this happens to everybody, but what I realize about relationship is that good people never get a good thing. Good woman never find a good man, and good man never find a good woman. No matter how good and loyal and positive you try to be in a relationship, you give your all. For some people, it just never work. And I do not understand why women keep doing this thing. If you do not want a man, do not take his things. Men keep complaining every day that they love women and treat them good, and they end up getting hurt. They end up getting disrespected. they leave them for somebody else who is not even giving them anything. And that is what keeps happening in today's society. We always end up with the people who treat us like shit.
I think there's something boring about good people. I just think when you're a good person and you try to lead your life on the straight and narrow, I think other people kind of view that as boring. And for whatever reason, people just don't like boring people.
Yo, it's crazy in this generation that good people get fumbled every day, left and right. It's like almost mind-boggling that someone could be so down to earth, someone could treat you so well, be so respectful, tell you how it is, keep it 100 with you no matter what, whether you like it or not. They're going to tell you that you're fucking up. They're going to tell you when you're doing good. They're going to tell you that they're proud of you. They're going to tell you that you're disappointed in you, but they keep it real with you. And I just think it's crazy that people like to play games with the people that care the most, the good people that just love hard, want to be with somebody, want to grow old with somebody, want to settle down, want to take shit serious. And it's really frustrating. I really hope good people find good people and end up with someone that values them as much as they value the other person, because it's a cold world out here. Stay strong, keep pushing, and lock in.
So here's the problem I have with this, because what he said there sounds absolutely beautiful. I love what he said there, right? But it sounds to me like what he's ultimately saying is good people are attracted to bad people too.
They take more advantage of you for doing right by them. That's what I've seen and I've experienced, not just in the entertainment industry, just in the world. Like I've seen people give to communities and stuff. It's no different from Nipsey Hussle. Trying to help the community, and that one bad seed killed him. Malcolm X, Gandhi. Think of all the people that meant well. You don't think most poor people mean well? But who's doing right by them? No, we chasing the BS, the things that feed our ego, that play into our vanity.
You're kind of invisible in the world when you do the right thing. It's the people that do the wrong thing that stand out and get idolized. It's horrible. Hit the thumbs up.
Sometimes in life, we are chosen to go through bad. Not because we are bad people, but because God has chosen us to be a lesson or example to the people around us. Wow. God has really selected certain people on this earth to go through the worst, to go through bad. And sometimes we aren't bad people, because we often hear people say, ek is 'n goeie mens, maar hoe gebeur dit saam met my? Yeah. So sometimes God has chosen your life for things to happen with you. Not because you're a bad person, but because He knew that the cross that He gave you to carry, you had enough strength to show the people around you what it is to carry certain burdens.
That's powerful.
Certain battles. And that's always how I comfort myself, is to say, but so I can be a lesson to the people around me. I know my earthly life might not be smooth sailing, but I know my victory is on the other side.
That was good stuff. I like that.
You know, I think one of the hardest things that people have a challenge admitting is that two good people can actually not be good together. I think we have this assumption that because you are emotionally stable singly, and because you are successful as a single individual, and because you seem to have everything together, we automatically assume that if you find somebody exactly the same, healthy and stable, that they'll automatically be good for you. And one of the challenges in life is realizing that while you may be good individually, you may not be good together. Life will teach you that a person can bring out either the best in you or the worst in you. And when you get to this space to where you start to see toxic behaviors show themselves, and they're showing themselves consistently, and the worst parts about you, the worst of your nature begins to show itself more often, sometimes you have to come to the conclusion that while I love you, while I want you, while everything in our lives should be perfect, maybe this is not the most healthy situation for us. Sometimes you have to love people enough to let them go and love them from a distance, not because they're not great for someone, they're just not great for you.
You know, I remember when I was married, we would go on double dates, and I'm sure you guys have had this situation happen from time to time as well, where all four of you are having just the greatest time together, And then all of a sudden, the couple that you're with will start arguing for no good reason, and they'll keep it going for the rest of the night, and it ruins the evening. I don't know what it is, but individually, people can be so nice, but you bring them together, and all of a sudden, it's like, oh, you don't even want to be in their presence.
See, the thing is, good people don't just wake up bad people. Good people go through shit. They get abused, they get used, they get manipulated, and then when they turn to this cold-hearted person, the world acts so surprised. When all you do is give, uh, it drains you. Whether it's financially, loving, whatever it is, it can drain you. Like, that shit can be draining. So you get drained physically, spiritually, emotionally, all that. And then when you finally decide to just not take it no more, that's when you become the bad person. You're not the bad person when you allow them to push you over, take everything you got, suck you dry. You're not the bad person. Then you only become a bad person when you stand up for yourself.
So, what do you guys think? Are good people naturally attracted to bad? Will bad people never come around? I think good people get treated horribly by others, and then I think they pass that on and treat others horribly as well. I think it's like a long line of dominoes. With that being said, if you really want to change the external world, you really got to work on the person in the mirror. I recommend you go get your shoes. Let's go for a walk. Venters, or afternoon, or whenever you're watching. I hope you guys are having a wonderful start to your day. Actually, it's Wednesday for you guys. I hope you guys are having a happy Wednesday. I was just watching a little bit. They were kind of talking about the Luigi Mangione guy, and on the news they showed him yanking him. The police were taking him out of a car. I guess they weren't yanking him, but they were taking him from the car into like the building. And he started like yelling, kind of like a crazy guy, right? And it just kind of makes you wonder. That's usually the defense that people try to use whenever somebody does something like a murder. They usually try to use the crazy defense. But they also talked to one of his previous roommates when I guess he lived out in Hawaii for a while. And this roommate said that when he first met Luigi, Luigi had complained to him about some pretty bad back pain, and that his goal was to go out to Hawaii and hopefully strengthen his muscles and get back to feeling normal. And he said that they went out on a surfing lesson, which is kind of odd. You know, if you have legitimate back pain, why would you do that to yourself? But neither here nor there. He goes out, takes this surfing lesson, and apparently, according to the roommate, he was kind of stuck in bed in recovery mode for a week after that. So apparently this guy does have some legitimate back pain, which if you kind of add the two together, legitimate back pain, kind of acting a little crazy, a little irrational, which I guess his friends and family have said that he's been acting like the past year or so, and all of a sudden you have a perfect recipe for somebody that starts to realize that what they're dealing with might be someone else's problem. And what I mean by that is, you know, I'm having trouble with my back. I can't get anything fixed. Everything's expensive and out of my grasp. I have these issues. And before you know it, they're trying to take out the CEO of United Healthcare. You know, when I was younger, we would watch court cases on TV, like something on Dateline, right, or 2020. And if you remember, darn near every time somebody had murdered somebody, they would always use the insanity plea. And it got to the point where it was a little irritating because it's like, okay, evidently everybody that's crazy kills somebody, And that makes sense because you got to be crazy to kill somebody, but we can't use that as an excuse, right? But part of me back then thought that people weren't really crazy, they were just using that as an excuse. But here's my thought that I'd like to share with you. As I've gotten older, I've seen people that when they were young, they were very normal, maybe a little hot-headed, had a little bit of a temper. But as they've progressed and gotten older, those weird things about them as a kid became kind of mental illness issues as adults. In other words, people that seem relatively down to earth and normal when they're younger can sometimes age into weirdness. This happens a lot with people when they hit their middle ages, where all of a sudden it's like their chemicals get out of whack, and it's like they're always in a bad mood, or they're happy one minute and sad the next. You know, they've got those bipolar qualities, and it's just really hard for people to keep it together as they're adults. In other words, adulting 101 needs to be taught to people. People need lessons in how to be an adult. And that's one of the things that people don't really talk about too much. And whenever someone has a problem, we want to kind of send them to a psychologist or a psychiatrist. And I don't know if you've ever watched any of these talk shows where they talk to psychologists and psychiatrists, but they seem kind of out of touch a lot of times. I mean, seriously, sometimes you see these people and it's like, my God, you're charging people $200 or $300 an hour to talk to you for an hour, and you're just as crazy as the people that you're trying to help. And so, I mean, if you're a psychologist or a psychiatrist out there, I'm not saying you're crazy. It just seems like the ones that we have on TV are. Seems like almost all the experts that we have on TV nowadays are a little bit out of touch. I was talking to ChatGPT the other day and I said, hey, if you have a pair of shoes that's just kind of sitting up on the shelf and they're not sewn together, let's say they're glued together where the sole and then the upper of the shoe is actually glued together and your foot goes inside, I go, how long before that glue just kind of naturally starts to lose its adhesiveness and come apart? And ChatGPT said probably in the area of 3 to 4 years. And it just got me thinking, God, I've got this fun little shoe collection, and don't get me wrong, they're just walking shoes. They're not incredibly, expensive dress shoes. But wouldn't that be a shame if all of a sudden every one of my shoes just literally the same month just kind of all broke apart? Spending all this money on these fun little running shoes and walking shoes just to find out that the glue comes apart after 3 years? God, I hope that doesn't happen, and I'll tell you why. Many of my shoes are starting to get to the point where they are 3 years old. Some are even older. And I imagine myself out on my walk, and then all of a sudden I look down and my shoe's in 2 pieces. I think that is going to happen. So let's talk a little bit about us. I really enjoy walking with you guys every single day. I've never really been in it for the money. If you guys are okay with the channel being tiny, I'm okay with it. I feel like we have a really good unit here, and I just want to keep going. I really believe that if we keep walking together, we might be able to stay in contact with each other for decades. That's what's so cool about walking. It's so chill. I'm kind of surprised that I'm the only one in my neighborhood that I see all the time, other than maybe the red venter. We do legitimately see LeBeau quite a bit, but I haven't really seen her as much lately. Now that could be that she's just walking at a different time of the day. And the reality is every single person that I walk and see every now and then, they could be walking every day just at a different time than I am. But it does seem like a shame that more people don't walk. It's so enjoyable. That Luigi guy, he says he has a lot of back pain. I don't know if I would recommend going and attacking the ocean on a surfboard as a good way to recover from back pain. But I suppose if you're going to do any activity, I suppose it doesn't get much more gentler than just taking a walk. You know, if you have a bum foot or a bum leg, there's going to be a piece of you that wants to go running, right? Because that's what we want to do when we can't run. But if you can walk, you can slowly but surely build that stamina up. All of a sudden you start to lose 5 or 10 pounds, and by doing that, you gain even more stamina. There's so many positives to it. Every day, if you go on YouTube or just turn on the news, you'll see literally that around this country there's dozens of murders every day. There's probably hundreds of assaults every day. And I can't help but think that if we could just get these folks walking, they could really start to work on themselves. See, the problem is every time we have a problem in life, it costs money. And we've gotten to the point where our brain just assumes everything costs money, including solving your problems. But walking can teach you really quickly that your brain is such a magnificent organ, and you've got the ability to come up with so many plans. And if you can just get to the point where you walk for 20 or 21 days in a row and get to the point where it's a routine, I'm telling you, your brain is going to really trip you out, because you're going to start thinking about things to improve yourself, and you're going to naturally want to increase from walking 20 or 30 minutes a day to walking an hour. If you end up spending less money because now you're really thinking about improving your health, maybe you'll take the money that you're saving by going on your walks. Because I see my walk as a way to save money. Instead of going out and about and spending money at a store, which a lot of times I would do back in the day, by going on a walk, it lets me think more about things that I need to buy rather than things that I want to buy. Because one thing I've noticed, if it's things that we want to buy, we as Americans especially, we tend to go overboard with it, especially this time of year. This time of year is the perfect excuse to spend too much money on stuff that really isn't important, you know? But if you can learn to save money and learn to conquer your problems that you're dealing with, man, it can just make it so much funner. Your life can be so much fun. I can't talk today. I'm boring. Oh my God, Jesse, you're boring. Holy shit. You know, Bob, it's not necessarily easy to talk to people every single day. Most people come out with a game plan. They already know what they're going to talk about, but occasionally our schedule puts us in a situation where we have to ad lib, where we have to wing it. And sometimes I think that's how people go through life. If I'm winging a walking conversation with you, that's not really that much of a big deal. But if you're winging your life and you've got kids and a family, well, that can be a big deal. So even though I might not always have the magic words to share with you guys on a walk, the walk will do magic for you, and it'll give you ideas on how you can come up with plans. I'm just a big proponent of plans. One of the things that I used to miss from football when I grew up is, if you remember, the people on the offensive side and the defensive side, they used to go into a huddle every play. And that huddle was significant because it was a team coming together, literally, and making a plan. And sometimes they had some spectacular plays, which meant their plan worked. And nowadays, the football teams, they very rarely even get in a huddle. Right after the play is done, they go right back to the line of scrimmage, and they have a shower, rinse, and repeat type of philosophy. And I have a feeling that that's how a lot of us are just kind of fast-forwarding our way through life. We're just kind of caught up in this rat race where we do the same thing day in and day out. And my thinking is, if we're creatures of habit like this and creatures of routine, then don't we owe it to ourselves to have at least a half hour a day where we go out and we be active and we do something for ourselves that doesn't cost money? When you're on your walk, there's absolutely nothing about the walk that causes any stress. I mean, unless you've got a bum foot or a sore ankle or something, usually you're able to walk, and usually after a couple minutes you feel pretty darn good. And I'll tell you what, even though it's a great way to make time slow down for people, man, my half-hour walk still seems to go like that. Sean, you've taken 3, 4, 5-hour walks before. Does it ever amaze you how fast those 3, 4, or 5-hour walks go? I mean, when you're enjoying something, time just flies. And I'm telling you, what's really cool is that this route that I've been taking with you guys every day pretty much for the past year, it's kind of become an extension of my neighborhood. Because when I didn't have the camera and I wasn't trying to time everything into a half-hour walk, I would take different routes a lot more. And sometimes you see people that you've never seen before. Sometimes you see a really neat car or a really neat paint job. And even though I'm taking the same route each day, I would recommend that you don't do that. I would recommend you guys take different routes. Check out the beauty of your neighborhood. Sometimes you just see somebody's front yard and you think, God, that person cares. And then you see another person's yard and you say, well, I don't want to think that they don't give a crap, because there's a chance that they do, but maybe they're just too busy to take care of their front yard. And maybe they don't have the money to pay for a landscaping crew, you know? So even though sometimes it's a bummer that you have a real pretty house right next to a real house that doesn't necessarily care, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the people themselves don't care. God, I am boring today. Well, you want to know something? I've done a lot of videos where I thought they were really fun and they didn't do so great. And then I had a lot of videos where I thought they were boring, and I even entitled them Most Boring Walk Ever, and it ended up being like my best video that week. So sometimes life is not about exciting. Sometimes it's about just saying, hey, sometimes we just got to go through the motions today. But that doesn't mean that we have to be stuck in that rat race forever. If you're overweight, start walking, you'll lose weight. If you're overwhelmed with problems, especially financial problems, start walking and you'll come up with some really good plans to get past those problems. I'm one of these guys, I'm a real fan and proponent of Kaizen. And we haven't talked about Kaizen too much, but maybe we should now that we're getting close to Christmas and the New Year. Kaizen is about baby steps. A lot of people, when they do their New Year's resolution, they go from doing bad habits and quitting cold turkey, you know, like quitting cigarettes and drinking, cold turkey, and what does that lead to? It usually leads to them jumping right back into bad habits, maybe even getting worse at those bad habits, right? They start drinking even more. But if they baby step, and if they go from 8 beers a day down to 6, down to 4, down to 3, down to 1, maybe they can slowly but surely walk their way off and it won't be as miserable for them, right? Same with your sweets addiction, because I have that same addiction. Maybe you go from eating 3 or 4 Snicker bars a day at Halloween to 1 a day, to 1 a week, to 0. If you wean off, all of a sudden things become possible and you start to notice the other possibilities. For example, if you're eating 2 donuts a day from the grocery store, and those donuts cost you $1.50 a day, even though it doesn't seem like that much money, if you can get to the point where you quit that, that's going to equate to an extra $8 to $10 in your pocket at the end of the week. At the end of the month, that's $50. If you can get to the point where instead of being online shopping all the time, you go outside and take a walk, that might save you hundreds of dollars just there. It's amazing if you ever pull out some of your receipts and your credit card balances and your invoices, you'll slowly start to see that it's almost like a disease how badly we just bleed money here in this country and all over the world. Lily, I'm sure if you were to look at your debit card purchase statements or your credit card statements, I'm sure you would probably see the same thing we all do, that a lot of times people end up spending thousands of dollars a month on fast food and Amazon products. And if you were to really ask them, what did you do with that product? A lot of people will tell you, I put it in my cabinet and it's been there ever since. It's really weird. It's almost like we buy stuff on autopilot. But when you're out on your walk, you can tell yourself, I'm not an automaton. I'm a human being. And every time I go on Amazon, I'm not making my life better. I'm making my future more bleak, because it's not like these bills and credit card balances go down by doing nothing. You have to actively attack them. So if you know that you like to spend 30, 40, 50 bucks a week on worthless stuff, why don't you make your new hobby paying off those bills? Find a way to spend 30 or 40 bucks a week on lowering your balance on those credit cards. Get rid of those bad boys. And they say the average person spends, what, four or five figures at Christmas time? If you're spending that much money at Christmas, well, there's your answer. That's why we're all getting bigger and we're all getting more and more in debt. The holidays are really doing us in. Sometimes you got to tell your family members, hey, I'm just going to make cookies. You're going to get grandma's chocolate chip cookies this year. And a lot of times when couples are real young, God, I can't tell you how many bouquets of cookies I got for Christmas. Do you think that Luigi Mangione actually thought that he did everything right and that he wasn't going to get caught? Or do you think that he actually purposely set himself up to get caught? See, that's the weird thing. When people start to lose it, are they literally losing it? Or is that some sort of genius plan that they have? Is he literally going to be like one of these guys in the movie that has this incredible plan that comes together? Or is he just going to be another waste of talent? Because, I mean, let's face it, he's probably one of these really smart, talented, up-and-coming young adults. And now he's potentially going to be in jail for the rest of his life. Sometimes we do things in the heat of the moment, right? Maybe he just had a really bad flare-up of back pain. Maybe it was the umpteenth time that he was feeling miserable and he had just had enough. But what causes a guy to literally make himself a gun? Because I'm sure you guys heard his gun was made up. He actually created that himself. God, it would sure be nice if these people would quit calling me. I think I'm just going to have to take a risk that I'll never talk to my son again and just decide to not accept any more phone calls on my phone. It's really crazy. It's kind of crazy the things we put ourselves through, right? Like the only reason I'm allowing these calls to bug me every day is because I'm hoping one day my son will make my phone ring. But you know what? Maybe that day is just not going to come. The reason I bring up this Mangione guy is because I think he's going through the stages of life that some of our friends go through. You ever see a friend in their teens or in their 20s and you think, God, that guy's got a really successful future ahead of him. And then you see them again in their 30s and 40s and maybe they've gone through a divorce and maybe they're a miserable person. Maybe they no longer look like that 20-something hunk or that 20-something gorgeous woman. Maybe they look 45 or 50 and maybe they look like they're 60 or 70 now. Who knows? All I know is I bet you there's a piece of that kid that wishes he would have never done this. It's easy to be okay with things when you're in the plan, and sometimes you get real excited and you think, God, this is a foolproof plan. And then you don't realize that if anything goes wrong, you're going to be in jail forever. I'm sure you guys noticed on the pictures I showed yesterday, this guy went on world-class vacations. He went to the nicest prep schools. He probably had the nicest meals. He probably never had to go without. Probably had a couple $100 in his pocket and a couple $1,000 in the bank every day of his life, right? And now all of a sudden you're eating green bread and green ham inside the jail, and you're dealing with living with a male cellmate for the rest of your life. I mean, even if you luck out and get the nicest, coolest cellmate in the world, I mean, do you really want to be sharing a cell with a dude for the rest of your life? I guess that's the thing that gets me. Maybe that's why I'm on the straight and narrow. I like to think it's because I believe in God and doing the right things, but maybe it's just a fear of that cellmate that's kept me on the straight and narrow. That's where the bully actually does you a good service. When you get bullied as a kid, you realize, man, I would never want to be, hanging out with that bully for the rest of my life. But isn't that what happens when we choose to go into the penal system? Aren't you really just going into a kennel, so to speak, with a bunch of animals? Oh, Jesse, you shouldn't say that about people. Jail is trying to reform people. These people are lost. These people are lost souls. And now this guy that had all this talent and had some money where he probably could have made things better the right way, it would have taken longer. But instead of doing things the right way, who knows? Maybe he succumbed to mental illness. Maybe he just didn't have the patience to do it the right way, and now he's going to be paying by being in a 6-by-foot cell for the rest of his life. Even if you're not a genius, and even if you don't have a successful future ahead of you like this guy did, it just seems like an awfully stupid thing. Can't you use your imagination and imagine waking up and never being able to choose what you watch on TV again, never being able to choose what goes in and out of your mouth, never being able to choose who you get to have as a friend? In jail, there's a lot of segregation and a lot of division. Just seems like a hell of a place to go if your goal is to change the world. That seems like the absolute worst place to change the world from. Oh, well, what about Nelson Mandela? Well, Nelson Mandela was a 1 in 100 million guy. I don't think this guy is Nelson Mandela, do you? That's what's so weird. Everybody was on his side, right? And I'm sure people still are. But what's going to happen is today they're going to talk about him a little less than they did yesterday. And next week they'll talk about him a little bit less. And guess what? In a month or two from now, Luigi Mangione is going to be past tense and no one's going to talk about him anymore. And even if they do, it'll never be as big as it is now. And there will come a time where we don't talk about him, period. Even that guy that killed those students up in, Idaho? Kohberger, Brian Kohberger? God, when that first happened, it was Brian Kohberger this, Brian Kohberger that. Now I feel like outside of News Nation, I feel like nobody talks about Brian Kohberger. So again, if you're thinking about doing something and becoming infamous and, everybody knows your name, who cares? Nobody of note cares about your name anymore. And he doesn't even have an easy, fun name to remember. No one's going to remember Luigi Mangione. Well, maybe they will. It's a unique name. It's not Mario, though. Mario Mangione would have been better. They could have called him Super Mario. Now he's like, not so great Luigi. By the way, you guys never really told me. Are you guys on his side? Am I truly the only one that's like, hey, don't be deceived. This guy's a bad guy. I can already tell I'm starting to lose a little weight from the weight that I gained at Halloween. Somebody sent me as a Secret Santa gift, this is no joke, they sent me like 150, I'm not joking, they sent me like 150 Rice Krispie treats. Can you believe that? And so I'm looking at this individually wrapped Rice Krispie treat and I'm like, hey, this is only 90 calories. It's not gonna hurt me if I eat one of these, but it's like I don't wanna get started because I know I'll end up eating like 5 or 6 of them. Yeah, I know you guys thought that I was this guy that was impervious to sugar, but the reality is you just have to make a plan and go without sugar. It's not always easy. Sugar is addictive. The longer you can get away from it, the better. And I'm sorry that I bored you guys to death. I just didn't really know what to talk about today. Everything on the YouTube news feed was about the Al-Assad or whatever his name is from Assyria, where they looted his car garage. Did you see that? He almost has more cars than Jay Leno. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you tomorrow.